say your name? My name's Nicole. And your name is?
Evey.
This is Evey. Evey's 4.5. What are we? We're mom and daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah. We live over here in Winterville, Athens, Georgia.
Yes.
What are some of your favorite things?
Snuggling with Mom.
Snuggling with mama.
Oh.
What else do you like to do?
Eat pizza.
Eat pizza. And
Play.
we like to play. And I'm a teacher, and a mom, and I like to make art, and Evie and I have lots of adventures together. We like to learn about like nature, survival skills. We like to paint and make things out of clay.
And go on walks.
We go on walks. We have a bike that Evie and I can ride on at the same time. That's really fun. Evie and I like to write stories together. We have a lot of books. Evie's writing a book series right now called Team Evie and Sonic, because Evie's favorite character is Sonic the
Oh,
Hedgehog.
I love that.
Yeah. Evie also has a podcast.
What?
It's called the Purple Evie Podcast. She and Thea do it together.
We have a blue Purple Evey podcast too.
You do?
Mm-hmm. Me and Thea are making it.
Yeah. Evie and Thea have a really cool podcast where the two of them record themselves having a conversation about something and then Thea animates it. So it's an animated podcast. But that's really cool. That's something Evie really likes.
Where can we listen to this podcast?
It's on YouTube. Purple Evie Podcast, and you'll be able to find it.
Nice.
It takes several months for them to make it because it's a lot of work, but that's really fun.
Thirsty.
And you're thirsty. When Evie was a baby, we learned sign language before she could talk. So she was just doing the sign for water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was really successful. So before she really knew any words other than like mom and dad, we taught her a ton of sign language. So she could tell us everything she wanted and needed and all of that. And it was really cool.
That is really cool. I actually haven't heard of anyone doing that.
Oh, really? I knew a lot of people who talked about it or said they did it or they did some words. And I was like, well, I would love that if she could tell me what she needs. And so we've got videos of her at like 10, 11 months old, like signing water or more, friend, cracker, all the things. So we did all the baby signs. And she and I watched the videos together and learned it. But now we do an ASL class here. And we're learning it again. So our school is called Our Resilient Community Agile Learning Center, or ALC. And Agile Learning Centers are super cool. You might have heard of Montessori schools or Waldorf schools. We're similar in values, but it's kind of more modern. So they took the Agile principles from like the tech world and applied it to education. So it's really cool. So if you've heard of like Kanban boards or like project management styles, there's an Agile project management. It's been applied to education. So we organize our day with our students, and the kids have a very active part in building the curriculum, and we build our school around what they're passionate about. So if somebody's interested in like woodworking, we'll learn those skills, or we'll find an expert who can teach them those skills. But we also do traditional subjects too. Yeah? You can go see the book. We do traditional subjects too, math and language arts and things like that.
Mama, can I?
You can go if you want to go play.
I need to. But how will I get out? How will I get out?
You're going to have to get out carefully. You can take off your shoes and climb around, or you can, I don't know, you can climb over the spot.
Yes.
Yeah.
This spot.
Yeah. So anyway, we share common values with a lot of alternative ed schools, like play is natural, our kids should be playing all the time. We believe in like solving problems with our kids are real people, so we don't have like any kind of punitive system. We have community agreements that we build with the kids each year, and those are open to change and variety. So we use like conflict resolution styles to solve problems. It's like being a real person. You come to school, you're a real person, and your mental health comes first. And on top of that, our school is specifically queer-centered, so we make the space safe for queer students. So there are many Agile Learning Centers using the same education model, but some are maybe more nature focused, some might do for certain age ranges, but ours is a queer-centered space. So we like to have specific offerings on queer history or queer rights, but then it's also just a safe place for the kids to come and do school. So it's pretty cool. I love it. I have a lot of fun.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much for your work. You mentioned offering, so could you talk more about what an offering is?
Yeah. Offerings are like classes, except we don't call them classes because they're not usually set up in the same like traditional class method. Sometimes we will have like a PowerPoint presentation related to something, but offering is more special. It's like we get to learn, and we learn not because we were forced to. No one is ever required to attend any classes. If you're not going to participate, though, you just have to be respectful of the others who are, learning in the space. So offerings are like, here is something that I'm going to offer. I really like to learn about history. I'm offering a medieval history class, and I might explain that it might be geared towards a certain grade level or a specific topic, or it might be, I did a biology class once it was basically 7th grade biology, but it was like all project based with candy, and it was a huge hit. But anybody can come. It's not just the 7th graders. It's who wants to come learn biology. It's always differentiated for, many ages and abilities. But I'm going to provide this content, and you might not understand all of it, but I'm going to maybe include a PowerPoint, and then we're going to do a project. So we made cells out of candy, or we traced some of the little kids, and then we did like all human body systems with food and candy and stuff, and it was amazing, and they had to label it. And that's just one offering that I might do. They might be multiple times a week, they might be once a week, but then we also will have somebody come from the community to offer certain things. We once had a retired art teacher come and do a special art class once a month, and that was cool. We've had parents come and build a birdhouse, or we had a dad come do strategic paper airplane making and racing, and that was really fun. But then we also set up internships for students. We have book clubs. When we had a bunch of little kids one year, we did tea time read aloud every week, and that was so precious. And that one was really lovely because we also had some older students, like teens, who baked special treats for the little kids in the morning. They spent an hour and a half baking scones or muffins or something, and then they had them ready for the little kids' special tea time. And we made tea, and the little kids showed up, and they had special baked goods from the teens. And I read stories out loud to them, or one of the other students would read stories out loud to them for an hour, and it was really sweet and special. But things will change and evolve with the community. So an offering can be anything, but anyone can do it. So we could have a 5-year-old come in with a box of Legos from their house and say, I'm offering Legos at 1 o'clock in this space, and we're just going to build cities, or we're going to have a specific challenge. So any student can offer them. We're all learners together in a space. I'm here to learn too, and I'm excited when I get to learn from the other students or teachers. Offerings. We want to have something different for our kids, or we all share these values. How can we get started? And some of them are homeschool groups. Some are set up by, teachers who have shifted out of the public education system and want to create a school like this. There's a really cool one. It's not an ALC, but it's in Atlanta, and I'm kind of obsessed with them right now. I'm following them on social media, but it's called the Morgan Oliver School. And their school is specifically anti-racist and awesome. I think they're in Kirkwood. Laura's school, Joy Village, is really cool. So I'm a big fan of all these private schools popping up. But Agile Learning Centers is just another network of people, and we all share common values, and then we use the same teaching, I don't know exactly what to call them, a teaching model. So we have a set the day board. That's how we organize the curriculum with the kids. We have a spawn meeting at the beginning and the end of the day, and those are kind of like a homeroom morning meeting, but it's more social, emotional, mental health based. So we have these very specific check-ins with the kids. And then there's another one called change-up meetings. And that's like how we solve problems as a community. Instead of having like top-down rules, we come together and say, hey, I'm noticing, you know, lunch boxes are being left out everywhere. We're having this problem of ants or something. And then people in the community can propose solutions to the problems. And we try it out for a week, and then we check in and see how that solution is going. And we get to be facilitators. We're not really called teachers. We're called facilitators. Because we do want the kids to like struggle with things, and especially when we are doing these community problem solving things, the kids might propose a solution and we're like, ah, geez, that's not gonna work, or that's gonna be really complicated. But then the kids will give it a try, and we let them see it through. We let them make messes, and then we come back together and be like, so how did that work? And people are like, oh, it was terrible. Oh, this is still such a problem. I'm like, okay. What should we try next week? You know, we get to facilitate this bigger vision of learning and mental health. And Agile Learning Centers all share like those types of things. But other schools we share values with. You know, there's a whole list of them that I could send you to the website and you can read all the values. But I love that schools like ours are popping up everywhere now, offering a lot of support for people. And we're all trying, I think, collectively to be more accessible. That's one of the big things going on right now among all the small schools is how can we make this accessible to people who have less money. And people are doing things like sliding scales and bartering and trying to get grants and funding so that we can bring our tuition down and things like that. Yeah. I could just go.
I love it.
There's
So, shifting a bit, but not so much. So, how are you balancing being a teacher and then having a 4.5-year-old? Because that's a lot.
Yeah. One of the reasons I got into this model of education is because I wanted to make a school like this for her before she was born. Back when I was like 20 or 21, I was like, this is what I want for her to be doing. And that's something I've been reflecting on the whole time. I worked at a school similar to this one. Well, I've only ever really worked at schools like this, and I worked at a Montessori school for a period of time. But when I started one with a group of people, and we set it up as a nonprofit. And the very first month of that very first school year, starting this brand new thing, I found that I was pregnant. And she's been along for the journey for so much of it. So when I was pregnant, she was there. As soon as she was born, we took one semester off and just came and popped in and visited. But then she was a baby, and I brought her to school in the little sling, and I have adorable pictures of her, like, hanging out with kids. She's, like, laying down on her little belly trying to look up, and they're, like, doing puppet shows and stuff for her. My dad came and nannied for a little while, which was really sweet, and he just hung out with her and walked her around all day, and just let her hang out with the kids. And then at one point, we had a group of toddlers. Well, I had her. She was like 2, and I was like, I would love if she had more little people around. And so we started a Roots program, which is what the ALCs call the program for the youngest group of kids. And those are kind of staggered depending on what school you're at. But we had a Roots program for a little time, and I had 4 or 5 little ones. And I took over that program so that I could be with her all day. And I just had 4 or 5 little kids and hung out with them in a special space at the last space we were in. And she's been along for the ride. She's always had friends who are older than her and younger than her, and her social and emotional skills are through the roof because she's just used to people talking to her and communicating with her. She's never had like another 3-year-old try and hit her. She's not used to that. She's used to older kids saying, oh, Evey, that made me feel sad when you grabbed my arm or took my toy or whatever. Can I have it back? And she's like, oh, sure, okay. You know, so multi-age learning is a whole other tangent, you know, a rabbit hole you could go down to learn about. But yeah, she's such a thriving little person. And it has been tricky. It's hard.
You okay?
Did you crash into the door?
But don't run into walls, okay?
To the blue door.
It's hard when she wants to like cling to me all day, but that's still pretty rare because there's kids, there's people, and she gets freedom. She gets to play with toys and build and run around and join offerings. But she's just a person in an ecosystem, so it's lovely. I don't know how it's gonna look, you know, going forward for her in the next few years. Right now, our age group is older. Since we shifted to the queer-centered space, we've had more teens, or you know, middle and high school, basically. And I don't really have a core flock of like elementary schoolers for her to run around with. So I'm looking at other options for her, and like how to supplement her education. But I'd love for her to be able to join back in when she gets bigger. But we'll see. I don't know. You know, things always change. I just want what's best for her. She's a happy, thriving little person.
Could you describe motherhood to me from your stance? What is motherhood?
Okay, I don't know. Again, I'm not a great public speaker, but I watched this documentary, I think during COVID, and I think it was about maybe Nina Simone, and she had a son, and her son's name was Guy, and I wish I could quote this exactly, but it like made me weep when I watched it. It was a documentary about her life, and I don't know, it was like a biography, and it was about all the amazing things that she went through, and at the very end of the documentary, they asked her, like, what was the greatest thing about your life, or the thing you're the most proud of or something. And they took a quote of her, and she's sitting in like a theater, and her son is doing something in the theater, and she said, the greatest joy and privilege of my life is being, she said her son's name, Guy, I can't remember his last name, Guy's mother. And I like wept, because I was like, you are like this incredible artist and activist and an amazing person, and I like am in awe of you, and we've just spent 2 hours learning about you. But from your perspective, the greatest thing in your life was like being like a single mom to your child. She had her kid when she was like 16 and like went through all this stuff, and like he was there the whole time. But so many times when you're learning about like biographies about people's life, they're not like mentioning the fact that there was like a kid along for the ride the whole time, and her son was like there, but they didn't really mention him in the biography. But at the very end, the thing that she's reflecting on was like, I got to be his mom. And I think that's beautiful. And I don't know, I think about that all the time. Like, I get to guide a person and love a person unconditionally, and she's going to be the most important thing that's ever happened to me. So, like, it's amazing. And the best thing about being a mom is just, like, I get to have a little person to, like, love and build up, and she's going to go off and become a person. Yeah, you get to guide a little person, a little soul. And I don't know, lots of people say that parenting is that your kids are a mirror, and they're reflecting back at you all the things that you actually should be like growing and changing on. So like if your kid gets really mad at you about something, it's because you're actually doing those things. They're like a shadow of yourself to like help you learn all these new things. And I don't know that I've encountered a ton of that yet because she's only 4, but
4.5.
4.5. Yeah, she'll be 5 in April. But I feel like she and I get to have a really special relationship, hopefully our whole lives. And we're going to challenge each other to grow, and being with her already has healed, like, my child wounds. I've been, like, very, very deliberate in making sure the certain things that happen to me don't happen to her. And in doing that, I literally felt the healing happen. And not that it should be a selfish thing, but I'm excited to see like how I get to grow and heal and change and try to make sure those same things don't happen to her, but then I get to just guide her and help her be a full and complete, happy, thriving human. And I'm really excited about it. We're having a great time.
That's amazing. Is there any last things that you would like to say to any mothers out there?
If you're ever overwhelmed, take a deep breath and take space. Try not to like put your stuff on your kids. You know, I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen from the amazing parents that I've watched is they take time for themselves, they know who they are. They're full and complete people who are growing and learning and healing. And then they can show up for their kids, but like you can't make your whole life about you, and you can't make your whole life about your kid. You can't be like living like for your kid. Do you know what I mean? Because if you're not doing that, like you're not being a full and complete person, and you deserve to be too. But I don't think it's a good example for them, for it to be all about them. I think kids learn so much when they can just like be along for the ride with you, and both of you matter, and they have, you know, really intense needs and wants and things like that that you can show up for, but like they're tiny adults, like they're little people. It's okay that they're different from you. Oh, and go learn about like childhood development and things. It will make life so much easier for you if you have realistic expectations for your kid. That's something too that I don't understand. There are people who are getting really upset at their little children for not being able to do something. And if you just go read, it's on the internet. Like go learn about child development, and you will be like, oh, okay, my 4-year-old is not capable of that. It's on me to calm down and show up, and if my kid is doing something that upsets me, it's probably because they aren't capable or don't know, and it's your job to just like calmly show them, teach them those skills. Just like show up and be present with them. The little moments matter. I don't know, there's so many things from being a teacher too, though. Like if you have a teen who is like angry at you, or you're upset and you don't like what they're doing and you're trying to change them, instead go and sit next to them when they're doing something that they love and be a person with them, and it changes everything. Like you have a real relationship with this person that will change all kinds of things in your parenting. There's a classic one of like if your kid's playing a lot of video games and you're mad at your kid or whatever, instead of telling them or trying to restrict their time playing video games, when next time you see them playing, go sit down next to them and be like, wow, this is really cool. Tell me about this game. What do you like about this game? And then play with them. And then you will find so much changes about your parenting, because they're a person to you, and you're being real with them. You don't always have to like top down enforce rules and do this stuff. If you start with a relationship, it's going to go so much better. But maybe I shouldn't be saying it like, because my child is only 4, but I've been working with kids for 10 years now, so I feel like I've been watching. I've been watching all of these amazing people, and I'm excited. Anyway, I'm just going to ramble.
Thank you so much for your time.